Technology is evolving, and figure offerings are improving rapidly over time. It's difficult to keep up with so many Hot Toys announcements and releases every year, but today I'm going to explain why you kind of need to pay close attention, or otherwise your collection may suffer. How do we maintain a quality collection? Hot Toys is announcing 80 to 100 figures per year. How do we keep up? Well, before we get started, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell down below so you're notified when content goes live here. That said, let's discuss the nature of evolution in Hot Toys collecting. How do you maintain a quality collection? Well, today we're going to go over common pitfalls to avoid. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for joining me for another video today, and today I want to talk about how to maintain a quality Hot Toys collection. And maintain is the correct word because Hot Toys collecting is an ever-evolving process, and it's very difficult to say that you can just establish a quality Hot Toys collection at one point in time and it will remain a quality collection in the long term because the metrics are always changing for what quality actually means. Ultimately, you are the arbiter of quality. You determine quality, not someone else. But it's hard to justify your old Hot Toys collection as quality when newer offerings are vastly superior. Contentment is one thing, but quality is another. And that leads into my first point. Quality changes, and so should you. What I mean by this is that quality is a very fluid term. It's very subjective, but as figure offerings improve, it's mostly pretty objective that newer offerings are generally better than the older ones. A common example that you could go to would be the Terminator DX10, which was considered a grail for a long period of time for Terminator fans, and now Hot Toys has announced a new clean T800 2.0, and that figure blows the old version out of the water. So it's hard to justify the old DX10 as quality when you see what quality actually means in 2025. And this doesn't mean that you should chase every bright, shiny, new, exciting thing, but it does mean that you should remain fluid and adapt to the market circumstances that dictate what quality actually means today versus what it meant then. If you're a huge Terminator fan and you really want an Arnold figure in the highest quality possible that you can most reasonably afford, then I would say it would probably arguably make sense to get the newer version and move on your old one, but more on that later. You yourself are an evolution. You today are not the same person that you were 5 years ago. You have evolved since then and you have changed. Your collection is really no different. As the offerings and the information available to you improve, so should your collection. Doesn't mean that you should chase everything and anything, but you find the right things and it will make your collection all the better for it. And right or wrong, I think it's only human to look at an older version of a figure that you have in your collection and feel kind of unsatisfied when a newer version comes out of a beloved character that you really need in your display that looks so much better. You may argue that this is simply a case of rapid consumerism and you should be appreciative and grateful for what you already have. And I do agree with that to an extent. You should always appreciate what you have in your collection. But if you have the means to upgrade and improve your collection and your overall contentment with your quality of display, I think that it's something you should at least consider and explore, but not always fall victim to. Hot Toys is always going to make incremental improvements to encourage you to buy each version of a figure. But every once in a while, you're going to have to make the determination and say, this is the one that I want to hop in on and invest in because I think this one is going to elevate the quality of my display and make me happier as a collector with this beloved character in such a high quality. The idea here is being open to change, being open to evolution, because Hot Toys collecting evolves so quickly, and if you don't evolve with it, you will fall behind and probably fall out of love with the hobby. And that leads me into my second point. Stop being afraid to sell old figures for new ones. I see the opposite sentiment expressed quite frequently, where collectors feel like if they purchase a figure, that's a commitment for life, like it's their child and they could never possibly abandon them. I disagree with this assessment because figures are not intended to be that. They're meant to be representations of our love for nostalgia and a character and anything else that you associate with that collectible. But I will say at the end of the day, these things are meant to be high quality display options. So when you have opportunities to get an even higher quality display option that it's reasonably within your budget to do so, I think that should be explored instead of holding on to the past and clinging on to it so tightly and not being willing to evolve with what's evolving before you and around you. The other reason that I think it's important to sell older figures that you've, I guess, fallen out of love with is because you can use your collection to fund your collection. Why not use a figure that's potentially in demand in the aftermarket, or even if it isn't, sell a figure on to another collector who wants the previous version to save a little bit of cash, and you can go ahead and get something else else new that you're going to be more excited about, that's going to keep you collecting, that's going to keep you fulfilled with the collecting process. Instead of holding on to these old things that you just don't feel the same connection to anymore. Why hold on to it then? What I don't think you should do is make a habit of losing money constantly and constantly flipping and selling figures for less than what you paid for them. But I do think you should be open to the idea of trading in and out to use your assets that you already have available to you to purchase new assets that will fulfill you more deeply. Even if it's not a 2.0 version of a 1.0 version that you already have, if it's a new character altogether or a new outfit or costume from a new film that you like a little bit more, I don't think there's anything wrong with interchanging in and out. I think it's fine, I think it's reasonable, and I think it's perfectly healthy to change your collection and have it evolve and grow with you. That's kind of the point. The third thing that I want to encourage you not to do is devalue your collection by displaying fails next to grails. This is a point that I've made in other avenues that some people find contentious, but I find it perfectly reasonable. I feel that you devalue the overall quality of your display if you display inferior quality figures next to figures that are considered very high quality. So for example, if you display a third-party figure that is generally considered low quality just because you want a representation in your display and it's next to a Hot Toys or InArt or J&D figure, I think it's perfectly reasonable to say that that devalues the overall display of your collection as a whole. This is not to say that all third-party unlicensed companies produce shit figures. That is not what I'm communicating at all. So don't hear what I'm not saying. There are some companies out there in the third-party landscape that produce figures that are equal to, if not better than Hot Toys quality. But I think the majority of third-party offerings fail to produce the quality that Hot Toys, InArt, J&D, or other major licensed companies do pretty regularly. However, this point is not exclusive to third-party figures. There are many Hot Toys figures that simply lack the quality compared to other more standard or higher level Hot Toys offerings. For example, a figure like one of the old Black Widow figures prior to this artisan release. I'm not a fan of any of the old Black Widow head sculpts. I think they're all pretty mid to subpar. So when you display a figure like that next to a Hot Toys Yondu, I do feel like that devalues the overall quality of your display because those two things are far from equal to one another. I think the closer that you get to a consistent level of display, a consistent metric of quality, I think the more fulfilled you're going to feel with your collection because it's going to look better and you're going to feel like it's more consistent and representative of you. That's how I feel. So while representation is important, I also feel like standard of quality is important. And if you're devaluing your overall standard of quality, I think you're devaluing your collection. And the fourth habit I see that I really don't like is overcrowding display cases. I have certainly seen collectors display a lot of figures in a display case fairly effectively, but it's not my preference. I do think a little bit of space goes a long way because otherwise it feels like a claustrophobic viewing experience. If I'm looking at another collector's display, I feel like I can't truly appreciate each figure individually because they're all just bunched together and crammed and hidden, and I don't really get to appreciate all the finer details. And I think even if you're looking at your own collection, it's important to be able to appreciate how real these figures actually look. And you can't actually do that when all the figures are crammed together and you can't actually see those details. So to me, it defeats the purpose of paying high-end prices for high-end figures because you're not able to high-end appreciate them. I also just think with a little bit more space, you can do a little bit more with your posing. Now, I'm not the most dynamic poser in the world. I tend to go with mostly character/museum poses in my display, but I do think when they're all crammed together, it reduces your ability to use lightsabers and weapons and other accessories that really give the character a lot more realism and lifelike aspects on the shelf, which goes a long way in building out a quality display, I'd say. My next point being, don't FOMO, don't chase, just evaluate. When you're evaluating how to spend your hard-earned money, I think it's really important to determine a want from a need, to differentiate the two. And there are many different strategies you can use to do that. One of them is placing your figures into tiers. Certain characters and certain figure offerings can be placed into tiers 1 through 5, and you can then determine which characters and which figures are most enticing to you. So instead of FOMO, fear of missing out buying, or chasing figures on the aftermarket where you typically have to pay something even more than retail price, you can just evaluate offerings as they are presented to you, see how they're going to fit in your collection, see how that figure is going to project in your display case, and make an informed decision from there. Only you can determine what is a need and what is a want, and what type of figure you would sacrifice in your current display to get the new one that's a little bit better for you. It's impossible for me to do this for you because this is a personal decision that you have to make, a personal judgment call that you must decide in terms of the quality of a new offering, its importance in your display cases, and the importance of this character to you. How important is it going to be in your display, and how much are you willing to spend to get it? All these are questions you have to ask yourself, and I do find it sometimes helpful to write down your thoughts. Type them down on Google Docs or write them on a sheet of piece of paper, whatever you need to do to place a character in a certain tier or make an informed decision so you know that your hard-earned money is being spent as wisely as possible in that moment. Identifying a need from a long-term want from a momentary desire, those are three distinct categories. And I think it's important to put figures in at least those three, maybe even more, so you know what's truly important to you. How do I want to spend my money? Because my budget can only go so far. I can only stretch it so far. I can only bend it so much further before it snaps. So don't FOMO, don't chase, just evaluate. Take your time. You have a while to pre-order. Determine what you need in your personal display. Stay up to date on the offerings and make decisions where you feel confident in what you're adding to your display cases and how you're spending your money. These things are expensive and they're not going to get any cheaper. They're only going to get more expensive as inflation continues to rise. So you got to make good decisions. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my principles here. Let me know if you've engaged in any of these strategies that I'm advising against today and whether you have a different take on it. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you have any alternative philosophies that you feel are important to maintaining a quality Hot Toys collection over time, of course, let me know those in the comment section as well. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video down below, subscribe to the channel, and of course, click that notification bell so that way you're notified when content goes live here. Guys, thank you so much. I always enjoy these collecting philosophy videos. I think they're generally pretty helpful and I like putting these ideas out there. So let me know what you think in the comment section below, as I mentioned. Thank you so much for another fun time here with this video, and check out all the other videos on this channel. Live streams every Friday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern, Lights, Camera, Collect. I appreciate you guys and all the support you've provided me. Thank you so much. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out. See you later. Bye.